All right, well, this is day 20 of my fast, and I decided I'm gonna bring it to a close now because I thought that 21 days was a good day because I like number 7. How many days there is in a week? I like the number 3, and 7 times 3 is 21. And it just seems to me it's a good time now for me to start eating again, and I have. I mean, I would like to lose a little bit more weight, but look, it's not just all about losing weight because I paid $10 for this Tai Chi class on. I gotta download the app to my phone, but somehow, I don't know. Somehow this application is going to teach me Tai Chi. So, I'm going to start exercising. I mean, look, if I was exercising, like if I was kayaking, like I used to go kayaking, I wouldn't even have this belly. But look, all right, look, hey, look, well, see, all right, see, look, hey, I gotta still have a little bit right here, I got some, but look, it's not like it was, because I know what it was like before. I had more, and I lost it. And I lost it by disciplining myself, and by making up my mind, and by making a decision and sticking to it. I didn't eat for 3 weeks, basically. Like, I'm not gonna eat today, because today's my 20th day. And then today, or tomorrow, I'm gonna be giving some consideration into what I am gonna eat. Okay? Like, what I'm doing right now is I'm drinking some V8. Okay, it still has vitamins and nutritional stuff in it, but it don't have any calories. And I've made dry fruit, like I dried strawberries and pickles, and I can crunch on them a little bit, and I ain't looking to eat a whole lot, because see, I've changed my attitude. I mean, I could go another week pretty easy if I wanted to right now. I could, but I don't know. I just think now it's time for me to make a transition. I was thinking, man, I would like to just lose it all, but I'm not disgusted with myself, how I felt after I ate all that fat and what it did to me. And I know that I ain't gonna be doing that no more. I'm gonna be more selective about what I eat. And these days of fasting have kind of been a little bit of the impetus for talks that I've been making here in my journal, and specifically the way that it just all worked out is I was hoping that I'm talking to my grandchildren. But now I feel like on this last one, I'm gonna say what I think I need to say, and then it's your turn. I mean, I think I laid out like what the most important things that I feel like are important that I've been hammering out for the last, I don't know how long, many years, but since I've been thinking about the stuff, I mean, somewhere between 50 and 63 years, depending on when I actually started giving serious thought to some stuff, Like, I started thinking about God like when I was in 3rd grade. That's in one way. I mean, my mom always, taught me how to say my prayers and everything. And, taught me prayers when I was a little kid, real little. And I went through a lot of changes in my life. And I'm just saying that one of the biggest kind of hurtful things that I've experienced in my life was when I lost my faith. Like, I was like expecting something, and I didn't get that. Like I was expecting, God to make God's self known to me in my extreme suffering, and I didn't get that. Well, and and it's kind of like, my religion and stuff is really what I've been talking about ever since I started my journal. I mean, really. I know I started with like the I and the thou, and that comes from Hinduism, I think. Like that. I mean, they're big on that, and it's good. I don't know. Like yesterday, I watched like 3 hours of the most brutal punishments. Okay. And it's just horrific, all right? I mean, and so this is the basis for my very last talk. and then I'm not gonna do anymore. This is the conclusion. This is my last one. And I'm hoping that, because I just feel good about bringing it to an end right now. I'm done after this one. And it's just like how it all worked out for me is synchronistic for me. And it just seems like it's been given to me. And it's been helpful for me, these my journal entries. And to think that maybe, my grandchildren, might be able to benefit something from what I'm saying, because, I mean, faith is, it's like the wild deuce. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a secret weapon, okay, but it's like a secret kind of helpful kind of thing, I mean, if you don't have faith, then you don't have hope. I mean, you don't, I don't know. I mean, and like I said, hope has always been kind of elusive for me. I never really ever get my hopes up or anything. But look, through my talks, I've been coming to understand a little bit more even about faith, hope, and love. And I was saying yesterday, there's certain places in our lives that we go where faith, hope, and love dies. All right, and look. Like, for example, some people in the line of their duty, okay, well, they get caught, okay, say like they're doing something like they're trying to overthrow the king or something like that, and they get caught. Well, it just so happens that I seen some stuff yesterday. I said like 3 hours of this stuff on YouTube, and this guy, and I've seen him talk before, and he's a really good talker, okay? He went into great detail about the Roman crucifixions, how they did it and everything like that. And the Romans, they made a whole long road full of just crucified bodies. Like 6,000, they crucified like 6,000 slaves. He was like on the cross like Jesus was, And, but look, there's other tortures that people have went through. I mean, they, okay, the Chinese, what they did, there's a certain Chinese name for it, but it's called in English, death by 1,000 cuts. Okay, what they would do is take a knife, like that sharp knife that I showed that one time, and, because Chinese people, they got the samurai swords and all that. And, I mean, they didn't have rifles and stuff like that back in the day, they had swords, and they made them sharp. Well, they just start cutting pieces off a person's body. All right, like 300, they documented, like one guy, before he died, they cut 300 pieces of flesh off his body. Okay, another thing they used to do, and it's not just the Chinese. A lot of people used to do this, even in France and England and all that. All right, they used to fillet people. I mean, they used to take their skin off of them while they're still alive. What they did, they cut just like you're skinning like an animal. If you go hunting and you kill a deer, and then you got to skin that deer. Okay, you hang the deer up, and you cut it around around the hoof or whatever like that. Well, in the case of a person, you cut it around the wrist, and then from there you peel the skin, and they wanted to get the skin off in big pieces. Like preferably like one whole piece. So they start there, wherever they start at. I think they start at the wrist. They said on the thing they said, and they peel it, and they cut and peel, and they just peel all your skin off while you're alive. Skin off your face, skin off your whole body while you're alive, and you're still alive, and you got all your skin peeled off your body. Another torture they would do is put people on the rack. The guy, that one, Princess Bride, that guy in there, he was put on the rack. Well, they put you on the rack, and they just pull you apart. Your bones come popping right out of socket and everything. They just pull you apart. They do it for days until you talk about whatever they want you to say. All right? They used to put hooks on the other side of a wall. Okay, a bunch of like big hooks, like you would see like a fish hook, except much bigger, big enough to hook a person. Put a bunch of these hooks on the other side outside of the wall, and then push people over the wall. And then when they fell down, they would get hooked by a hook. And if that hook didn't hold, then there'd be more hooks beneath that hook, and they'd get hooked. And then they would just hang there. Other thing they used to do is take spears and put the spears right up through a person's ass, right? Right up all the way up right through the mouth. Look, when they peel the skin off a person, they usually pour scalding hot water on the person first, burn their skin, and it makes the something called the dermatitis or something like that. It's the part of your skin that it connects it to the flesh. Like it makes it separate easier if they burn it with something like hot water or something. Look, I don't even want to go into the details of crucifixion, but a lot of people have been crucified. I mean, people have had their skin ripped off their body while they're alive. They would saw. Okay, this one, when the guy was talking about sawing, they would saw people. Okay, they would tip them upside down from their crotch. All right, just start sawing them with one of them big saws. One person on one end, one person on the other end, and the saws got teeth. Back and forth, just ripping flesh and bone, just sawing. And they would saw right from the groin, okay, right up to the belly button, and then they just they saw that far, and then just make the person stay like that for a while. Or sometimes they would saw them right in half in the middle. Look, this is what they used to do over in Aleppo, and this is not long ago. They used to saw people's heads off. They used to just saw their heads off with a rusty old saw. All right. People are gruesome. Okay, and all I'm saying is, if you're getting your head sawed off, or if you're upside down and have already busted your legs, whatever they do, if they're smashing you with a hammer, okay, there's so much torture that you just fall in and out of consciousness, and it just doesn't end for days. Okay, that kind of evil is hard. It's hard to think that God is anywhere around. Okay, I'm just saying, okay? And if you're like over in Iran or something, or wherever there's fighting going on, and bombs are being dropped, and your family and stuff is getting killed and everything, you know, it's look, look. Look. I just don't know how a person can even. I know some people actually, like, you know. I read a book about this lady that was put down into a dungeon, you know, into like a sewage dungeon, and down there is all damp and watery, going down with sewage and stuff, you know. And she was put down there in the dungeon, and I mean, she said, you know, she had an experience with God. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm also saying that it is also possible to feel completely abandoned, like God nowhere around, God's nowhere to be found. Okay, and the only thing that you have to survive on is, you know, your own wits. I mean, what God gave you to live in this life. And that's where I think, you know, we have to like, and you know, it seems almost like it's kind of deja vu for me to be talking about like the three captains, like I did it before or something. You know, Sun Tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ. Like, it seemed like I made this identification like I'm not in college or something, but I never really studied the Buddha until now. You know, and it was just kind of, you know, weird stuff. I mean, I feel like, you know, maybe it's either my mythic imagination, you know, or, you know, maybe God's speaking to me a little bit or something, you know. But my thinking is a lot of times when people say that God is speaking to them, in my opinion, it's just really nothing more than a projection. Like, you know, it's what you call you know, we project out there what we think God would say, and then we get it back as if God said it. But really, because look, most people have their picture of God in their mind, and they've created that picture, and based on, you know, what they think and what they hope and what their faith says, you know. So I wanted to conclude my talks here because the last captain I've been talking about is Sun Tzu, and the reckoning that, you know, you have to prior preparation prevents poor performance. I mean, look, and the best thing is to always avoid conflict if you can at all costs, because usually anytime you get into a fight, the person who you're fighting, even if you win, it don't mean that it's over. All right. But if you can rise above it with a higher perspective, find a way that thinking outside of the box and find a better way through your faith. See, that's where faith comes in, you know. You want a better life. You want to find a better way. And, well, that is best practice. Okay? And I just feel like I've been wanting, like, if my grandchildren, okay, like, if I could say anything to you, like, I just want you to be just like Joseph's. I might have said before Jacob, but I meant Joseph's. The coat of many colors. You know, what all the different colors mean, you know. Look, and like I said, you know, my favorite book in the Bible is Ecclesiastes, and chapter 3, I'm pretty sure it's chapter 3, you know, there's a time and a season for everything under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant, a time to reap what you planted. a time to laugh, a time to cry, a time to fight, and a time for peace. And it's just like the prayer of serenity. Like Niebuhr said, God grant me the grace to change the things I can. To accept the things I can't change, to change the things I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference, and to have serenity, peace, with that, and confidence, like that. And I'm just saying that the big challenge, for me and that's why when I was in graduate school, I studied a lot, every chance I could. I took classes. Yeah, really interested in theodicy. That is the question, how can evil persist if there's a good God? If God is good, how can evil persist like it does? Because there's atrocities in our world. And it's hard to believe that there's actually a God when you're looking at these atrocities. Or not only atrocities, but the plagues. Like I was just thinking about Albert Camus. I had, in one of my theodicy classes, I had to read The Plague by Albert Camus. And he was an existentialist, and it was about a doctor who was helping people, and there was a plague. Everybody's getting sick, and how they respond to it. And it's just that to be able to have a faith even in the silence is like just extraordinary. And that's what I have. Okay, like I said before, like I lost my faith, and then I gained faith again in Jesus Christ, but it was only through the memory and the thought of, it kind of floated up just like a song does in the morning, or something, it floated up in my head. My God, why have you forsaken me? And when I identified with that, I realized faith that I didn't have before. It wasn't, like I said before, it's not because, okay, that's one step to another. No, adding it. It's in that acknowledgement I found faith. Okay, in my forsaken feelings is just because Jesus had it. He said, why? It's true, man. I felt forsaken. I was forsaken. Ain't no denying it. And my dream pointed it out to me in a big way. My subconscious spoke to me, and I had to reckon with that. Jesus said to one of the disciples, I think it was like Doubting Thomas, because he wanted to actually see if it was really Jesus, from the cross, like that's what the story says. He said to Jesus, and Jesus said to him, because he wanted to put his fingers in the holes, find out, is this really you, Jesus? And he said to Thomas, said, blessed or happy are those who believe and don't see. Right? So, what? Sometimes it's hard to believe in God because it seems like God's nowhere to be found. I'm just saying, I don't really know. Like, I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I kind of felt like, my mom was talking through me and my dad was talking through me to you. I'm not going to say that, I can prove anything. It seemed that way. It could be my imagination. Well, look, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. And that's the beginning of the acknowledgement that we don't know. That is the beginning of wisdom. And this is when people think that they know everything, and they're the ones that really don't know shit. Well, we gotta keep our, gotta keep our wonder and our imagination and our hope and our faith active. And the thing is, like, I told my son, I tried to tell my son Adam this. I don't know if he really, he wasn't really listening to me. Kayla knows, I'm sure, because I told her. Well, I mean, I told him at the same time. I'm more talking to Adam, I told him, look, man, I said, if you want to change your life, there's two ways to go about doing it. You can change what you do. You can change your behavior. You can change your action, like I did when I started fasting. I disciplined myself, right? Okay, if you change a habit or you change an action by self-discipline, then your attitude and your feelings will follow. Okay, or you can change your attitude and your feelings, like I did when I was looking at the people starving in the Nazi camps, extermination camps, and that changed my attitude. When I seen that, it changed my attitude. And when I revisited all the suffering and everything in the world, it changed my attitude. And then when I changed my attitude, then my behavior followed. Okay. I lost my appetite, for one thing. And I put things like in a different perspective, and I don't know, it's subtle changes, but that's how you change your life. You change your attitude or you change your behavior, but one will always follow the other. All right. Sometimes you have to discipline yourself. It's hard, but if you keep at it, your attitude will change and become easy. The more familiar you get with something, the easier it gets. And that's why, like, now I'm kind of excited now to be bringing my journal to a close, because my attitude is like, I'm gonna now exert more energy toward my goal of learning the guitar and putting something together for my dogs before they all die. And plus I got a lot of other stuff to do too. I got to pull a lot of weeds. I get my place cleaned up, and I just have a lot of stuff to do, like I want to be able to look through my telescope. I want to be able to look in my microscope. I want to be learning stuff. And I need to start doing Tai Chi. I might involve myself with that guy Paul Chek, but I don't know. I just don't want to spend too much money. Like, I don't know if it's gonna cost anything. This Tai Chi thing is only $10, so But I gotta be careful, because sometimes I can hurt my back, man. And when I hurt my back, man, it hurts hard. It hurts bad for a long time. So, that's why they say Tai Chi. They say, well, I won't hurt myself. So, like, I ain't gonna be doing no sit-ups or nothing. But this is small talk, and I wish and I hope that I'll be able to have a conversation with each of my grandchildren, hopefully, But if it doesn't ever happen that way, because I don't know what the future holds, I'm happy that I actually said what I had to say to you, because, like, it's taken me a long time to actually put together what I've said in these talks as I've been fasting. And it demonstrated how that I can achieve my goals. And yeah, I did. And in the process, I know I've been rambling on about stuff, because I've listened to some of the stuff I say. It's like, but look, now it's your turn. I mean, and I have confidence. I got faith, because I know my daughter Amber. I know my son Adam. I know Kayla. I know Will. I know my son Isaac. I don't know, Isaac's. I don't know if he had a boy or a girl. I know he had a kid. I don't really know his wife. Never met her. But I know Isaac. And I think that all my kids and the people that they're with are plenty sufficient to give you, each one of you, my grandchildren, sufficient guidance. And each one of you have a piece of me in you. And I know that the piece of my hope and the piece you got from me is a little piece of determination. All right? Because if anything, I've shown my determination and resilience. I don't really give up that easy. And you can't give up either. You have to keep pressing on. Paddle hard. Try to take a highest perspective you can. Expand your thinking. Discipline yourself. Right? Make yourself strong. And try to follow the advice of experts. Expand your thinking. You never know when you might need the skill that you might learn in martial arts or something, but keep it under hat, and don't be proud or nothing. I gotta go to the bathroom. But so I'm just saying, I'm done. All right, bye.